Jez, you've recently come out in the press to describe the planning applications at the stadium and the sporting village as a defining moment in the club's history. Why is the planning application so important?
I think that the article talked a lot about our ability to generate revenue and talks about the facilities. The most important thing is the rent agreement, because when the ground was sold back in whenever it was 2004, the lease agreement that was granted to the club makes it very, very difficult for the club to have any security in the long term. So by that I mean that it started at 200,000 a year. If Grosvenor are now charging us the full amount as per that lease agreement, it's just over 300,000, and the way it's index linked to rise every 5 years when there's a rent review would mean that in 5 years' time it'll be over 400,000, in 10 years' time it'll be over 500,000, and you know that becomes prohibitive, a cost prohibitive to the club. We're very, very fortunate that Grosvenor have been such good landlords to us. You know, in the first 3 years of them being here, we didn't pay a penny in rent. We paid £50,000 in rent 2 seasons ago. We paid £100,000 in rent last year, and we'll pay £100,000 in rent this year. And that's something that's in our business plan and we can afford. But if you look at how much the rent could be, and certainly will be in the future, you can see why there'd be a massive problem. So the only way the club really can secure its long-term future is for that lease agreement to be ripped up once and for all, and us to be granted an affordable and a sensible and a financially viable agreement that can see the club, you know, prosper in the future. So that's why it's so key. The only way Grosvenor can rip that up, and bear in mind they've already written off more than £1 million in rent, you know, so the only way that they can rip that up is to get planning, the enabling facility, you know, the enabling development at Trumpington in terms of houses being built, and then that will allow them to issue us with a new rent agreement, and it will, as I said, you know, secure the future of the club.
In terms of the sporting village in Trumpington, what could that do for the club?
Yeah, loads, and particularly the community outreach that the club's really proud of at the moment. This is the start of term for a new academic year. We're working in 65 different schools, primary schools. We deliver to over 2,500 kids every week in all different sorts of sports. Some of that is PPA, some of that are after school clubs, lunchtimes clubs, breakfast clubs. We do a huge amount in terms of our youth development programme. We do a huge amount in terms of our community football programme, both in school holidays and out school holidays. The youngest kids that now engage with Cambridge United are 2-year-olds at our soccer tots. And we know that if the trust and the community projects and the community programmes actually had a base, that we could grow those programmes hugely. You know, we've done a lot of work recently with Grosvenor looking at business plans, depending on having the indoor area, depending on having our own full-size pitch. And really, you know, the amount that we can do compared to what we're doing now is huge. That includes disability provision, because, you know, we're active, but we want to be more active in that provision. Girls football, our link with Cambridge University, futsal, and just so many different projects, particularly engaging with local primary schools, trying to link education with sport. There's so many ways in which we could do even more than we do at present, but we're hamstrung by a lack of facilities. So for the community programme that'd be huge, and then for the academy it's enormous as well, because that would allow us to become a Category 2 club, or certainly apply for that. You need an indoor area, 60 by 40, to be able to adhere to that criteria. So the academy status then improves the games programme, improves our compensation rights for each of the young players in the system, and it provides the club with greater funding for the academy. So yeah, massive, and a huge potential for the club to really grow.
I'm sure most people would have been impressed by the images of the stadium released earlier in the year. Just how exciting are those plans for the stadium right here at the Abbey Stadium? Yeah,
it's exciting, but it's tempered with that fear of it not happening, I guess, and we really do need to articulate within the media and to the powers to be in the next few months the importance of what we feel the club is to the city, the asset the club is to the city in terms of our community engagement, and in terms of the ambition of the club as well, because football's changed. You know, Cambridge United has a couple of times in its history punched way above its weight by being in the second tier of English football, and for us to ever have the aspiration of returning to that level, the landscape financially has changed so greatly. We really need better facilities than we have at the moment. So whilst phase one of that development here would be to redevelop the Newmarket Road end, create a proper frontage to the stadium, and allow us to other people to perceive the stadium somewhat differently. We also know that, you know, we need to invest then and find investment to redevelop the Habbin stand. We think that there's a real potential there to create a really smart stand with the right sort of conferencing and community facilities that could really generate a lot of money, especially on non-match days. And the business plan would then be to create enough investment to redevelop this stand. And there's plenty of examples at the moment of how you can effectively redevelop a stadium without doing too much demolition work. So it would be fairly attainable to be able to take the roof off this stand, put the tick boxes at the back, create an extra tier in terms of conferencing and hospitality and community rooms, and again, really maximise the space that we have on the site. So I think the south stand's safe at the minute, but the rest of the stadium, really is in need of development. And if you then create a 12,000 capacity stadium with all of the facilities that you need to generate money, not just 23 days a year when you play, but 365 days of the year, then the club really, with the unique position we have in Cambridge and the community work we do and the youth development programme and an academy that could be way above the level of a club of our size usually would expect to have, then we think we've got an opportunity to perhaps again in the future punch above our weight and aspire to be a club that can get to that level of football. But as I said, first and foremost, we need to secure the long-term future of the club, which is the rent and the lease agreement. Then there's the potential of the sporting village, then there's the potential of the stadium. And if you put all of those three together, it's pretty exciting if planning's granted for what the club can achieve and what it can achieve for the city, because every bit of community work we do is affecting the next generation of our city, and it's a growing city. In many areas it's an affluent city, in other areas not so. And we've got a really vital role, we think, in helping the whole city grow and develop in the way you want. A fit, healthy, active, loads of kids that are going to be the generation of the future.